So, hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Sorry for the silence. I haven't been feeling well. I have a cold, but I'm getting better. And I expect to actually be back, hopefully, by this weekend to essentially make more videos, or maybe earlier than that. But before then, I was sitting and was thinking of a very short, quick and short idea of something I could share with you guys that I've currently been doing and experimenting with, and that's journaling. So I noticed something weird about my reading, which essentially led me to the journey to find a way to journal and keep track of what I'm doing and what my mind is doing during a trading session. Um, I noticed that whenever I'm trading or actively trading, I would do as most people tend to do, which is use the note taking approach to journaling and going through your history. So I would open up my terminal, check out my history, and then start noting down what happened and trying to figure out what happened. But then with time, or rather during this time that I've had my cold, which has been now close to a week, but I'm getting better, um, I noticed that when I review my statistics after the fact, I don't tend to get why something went wrong. And I would essentially be using my hindsight bias. So, for instance, if I was journaling this trade, by the time I am talking about it, the market has already printed all these other candles. So, depending on whether the market would be going in my direction or in my original direction or against it, my notes would change at that moment. And after noticing this problem, I realized that this is something that needs to change, and I was not essentially improving. And then I started also noticing that there was cognitive dissonance between my subconscious mind and my conscious mind. I started noticing this when I would feel fear, but then I don't know why I'm afraid. So, like, I would enter a trade and I would start being afraid, but I don't know why I'm afraid. My heart would start pounding and I would start monitoring it. I know it's weird, but I didn't know why I'm feeling that. So, I started trying to go through my journal, but then my journal had all these hindsight bias issues. So essentially, it couldn't show me what was going wrong. And at that time, I couldn't figure out what to do until I started noticing that when I'm talking, especially when I'm presenting ideas for YouTube, my mind would be thinking actively as I'm talking. And despite me adding presenter notes at the bottom, my mind would change whatever I'm about to say to better fit whatever I'm discussing. And something clicked in my mind, and I asked myself, what if instead of adding notes after the presentation, or rather the trading in my journal, what if I add them actively as I am trading? And since I tend to trade very low time frames, like 1 minute, 5 minute, and 10 minute, like I've been experimenting a lot moving through the time frames, but I noticed that I'm settling in at the lower time frames as opposed to the higher ones. So when I noticed that the market would move quickly, so quickly that I wouldn't find time to essentially note down what I'm thinking about, I decided to shift my focus to instead talk about it actively. So I decided to install OBS. So essentially, I started using OBS to record my screen as I am trading and just focus on what I am looking at. So as I'm looking at the market, I would start talking and say it seems like the market is doing XYZ and there is a potential signal, let me enter. And at that point, I realized that when I'm doing this and noticing something happening in the market, I would have to explain why I am taking a specific action in the market. So, for instance, if I decide to, assuming I had decided to buy at this point, I would have to explain to myself why I am buying, because that is my journal. The video is my journal. And as a result, I started noticing the differences, or rather, how what I am saying with my mouth versus what I am feeling. So, when, for instance, I say the market seems to be at a very low price, hence I should buy, I would catch myself and think, okay, the market might still go lower. So why would I assume that it will be going higher? So at that point, I would start to check if there is any more evidence about the market heading higher. And at that point, I would notice that, oh, I'm not actually focused on what the market is doing. I'm focused on what my mind wants to find. I'm focused on my thinking that the market is at a very low point, so I should find a place to buy instead of focusing on what is happening. I also started noticing that if I focus on the market, if I essentially focus on creating the video and talking about what I am seeing, I would immediately discover the dissonance between my subconscious and conscious mind. I would immediately discover what's actually causing me fear and what's actually causing me to feel a bit tense about the different situations that are happening. And at that point, at that specific instance, I would reset my conscious mind to start looking at what the market is currently doing. I would, for instance, be so afraid of taking a breakout trade, and then as I'm explaining why I'm not taking that trade, I would catch myself saying something along the lines of, I'm not taking this breakout trade to the downside because I think the market is at a support zone, so it's less likely to continue lower. But yet the market has already shown that it has broken out. So it resets my brain to go back to what I am currently looking at, which is the market. And I found that to be very helpful. And I made several videos. And after some time, I so today I didn't really take a lot of videos because my son, my youngest, was sleeping, and I didn't want to essentially start shouting, because when I start talking I get excited and such. So I didn't really want a lot of noise to result in him waking up. So I also discovered another approach, which is taking screenshots. And in the said screenshots, since the market is actively moving, I would take a screenshot as I'm trying to take the trade, and then I would name the screenshot, quickly name it immediately after I've taken it, to something that correlates to the context of what was happening at that specific instance. And in doing so, I could come back later, and even regardless of the hindsight bias that's currently there in the market, I would still look at my comment and notice, oh, at this point, for instance, I noticed that I'm starting to crash out. And at the time, it was 7:17 in the morning, I thought, or rather considered, that maybe it's as a result of being in the market for too long, because at the time I had already been trading for like an hour. So maybe my mind was essentially had started getting tired, and it's a note. It's something that I need to check on, and um, essentially research in the future. Something else I noticed, and I would note down, as you can see, I would even admonish myself. So I'd say, succumbing to the feeling that I didn't know what will happen, this is a warning to myself. I wrote down, you know better, because I need to remember that I shouldn't be taking such trades, and I know better. I know that I shouldn't be entering the markets at that point, the point wherever this screenshot was taken. And in making those, leaving myself those notes, they essentially help me to stay in line with the market, and to stay in tune with what the market is doing. So before I perform an action, I essentially need to say why I'm doing it, and say it either with my mouth and write it down. And I'm not allowed to change it. After the thing that I was fearing happened, I would then wake my mind up at that point and check out what happened. So for instance, as an example, I would, for instance, want to sell here. I added to that sell position at this point, and as the market was heading lower, I started getting afraid, and I made a note to myself that I am afraid. I don't know what will happen in the future, and that's something that I need to accept as a trader. But I would still execute the trade. I actually added again at this point, and as the market was proceeding in my direction, I would go back to that screenshot that I took at this point that was telling me that I am afraid, and remind my mind. So as you can see, there was nothing to be afraid of. You didn't know what will happen in the future, but you're just following a plan. So continue doing that. So I know this might seem like the rambles of a madman, but it's something that I'm doing, and it's something that I could recommend to you too. Sit down, find a quiet room, and as you are trading, talk about it. Just fire up a recording software. There are actually also Chrome extensions that you can install that would be able to record your screen, and monitor everything that you are saying. Monitor your thoughts, monitor your feelings, monitor whether you're feeling afraid or excited about any specific trade that you have. And as a result of you monitoring all these aspects, you'd get to a point and start noticing whenever you are feeling fearful, yet you should be feeling hopeful, or whenever you're feeling hopeful, yet you should be feeling fearful, or whenever you are super afraid of a setup, yet you have nothing to be afraid of because the market is doing what you want it to do, or it's essentially agreeing with you. So I would recommend that, but otherwise, that's it. Essentially, try recording your screen, try monitoring what you're saying, and keep those videos and watch them over and over again, and figure out the inner person in your brain that's whispering to you to be afraid or to question yourself or second guess what you're doing. And I really hope you can experience the same levels of success that I'm currently experiencing in as far as using that method is concerned, and in as far as keeping track of my mind, which I believe is the edge in my trading. It's not really my strategy. My strategy that just helps me to find when to enter and when to exit. My mind is what decides how, whether or not I would be executing on those signals or not. So yeah, I hope you guys have continue to enjoy the rest of your trading week, and I'm wishing you the best in everything that you're doing. And yeah, cheers. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and comment down below other methods that you guys are using to essentially keep track of your trading psychology, keep track of your trades, and keep track of everything that you're doing as you are trading. Otherwise, thank you, and have a good one. I think and have a good one. Yeah, cheers.